All right, today we're jumping into one of the most talked about, maybe one of the most confusing visions in the entire Bible, Revelation chapter 7. You've probably heard of it. It gives us these two incredible groups, the famous 144,000 and this massive, uncountable great multitude. So, what's the deal? Are they the same people? Are they totally different? Let's get into it and try to decode this ancient puzzle. So the vision kicks off with this just massive image of cosmic power being held back. You've got four angels at the four corners of the earth, and they're literally holding back the four winds. Now, in the symbolic language of the Bible, winds often represent God's power that can bring salvation, but also judgment. So what we're seeing here is this moment of incredible worldwide suspense. Now, what's really fascinating here is that this whole scene is basically an interlude. It's like a dramatic pause button has been hit, right between the sixth and the seventh seals of judgment. All these destructive forces are just waiting. They're being held back, but only for a little while, and for one very, very specific reason. And that leads to the big question, right? With judgment about to happen and the whole world just hanging in the balance, why the delay? What could possibly be so important that it puts the final act on hold? And there it is. That's our answer. Another angel shows up, this time from the east, which is often associated with the sunrise and new beginnings, and he yells, "Hold on." Nothing can happen until a very specific group, the servants of God, are sealed. They have to be marked for divine protection. And no, this isn't some physical brand. It's a spiritual mark. So, let's talk about this group that's at the absolute center of all this cosmic drama. The text doesn't just call them servants of God. Oh no, it gets way more specific. It gives us a number that has fascinated and, frankly, confused people for centuries. 144,000. It's such a precise, unforgettable number. But who in the world are they? Well, the text immediately gives us what looks like a super detailed census. So the vision breaks it down tribe by tribe. It lists 12 different tribes of Israel, and get this, exactly 12,000 sealed from each one. So at first glance, it really looks like we're talking about a literal, ethnically specific group of people. But in a book that is just dripping with symbolism, you have to ask the question, is this an actual head count of exactly 144,000 individuals, no more, no less? To really get what's going on here, we kind of have to put on our first century hats. Back then, especially in this kind of writing, numbers were almost never just about counting. They were packed with meaning. First, though, let's just clarify what this seal is all about. Okay, so the seal on the forehead, it's not a tattoo. It's a symbol that says this person belongs to God. It signifies that they're owned by him and they're protected by him, and putting it on the forehead, that's key. It means their minds, their thoughts, their entire will, it all belongs to him. It's basically a guarantee of salvation. All right, now for the fun part, the math. According to the source, the number 12 is used again and again in the Bible to represent God's people. I mean, think about it. The 12 tribes of Israel in the Old Testament, the 12 apostles of the church in the New Testament. Then you have the number 1,000, which symbolizes absolute completeness, just fullness. So what happens when you start mixing these numbers together? This right here, this is the symbolic interpretation in a nutshell. You take 12 for the Old Testament people of God, you multiply it by 12 for the New Testament people of God, and then you multiply that by 1,000 for total completeness. So the big takeaway here is that 144,000 isn't meant to be a literal count. It's a powerful symbol for the entire, complete body of believers from all of human history. But just when you think you've got it all figured out, the vision pulls a fast one on us. The camera, so to speak, pans out and we see a completely different scene with what looks like a totally different group of people. All of a sudden, the narrator sees a crowd so huge you can't even count them. And here's the kicker. Unlike the 144,000 who were listed by their Israelite tribes, this group is explicitly from every nation, every tribe, every people, and every language on earth. So what gives? Are these two different groups? And this right here is the key that unlocks the whole passage. The source material argues we're not looking at two separate groups, not at all. We're looking at the same group, just from two different angles. The 144,000? That's God's people on earth, viewed as a perfectly organized army, sealed for spiritual battle. You could call them the church militant. The great multitude? That's the exact same group, but now seen from heaven's perspective. They're an uncountable, victorious crowd in white robes. Their struggle is over. They're the church triumphant. So let's stick with that heavenly perspective for a minute. What does that ultimate victory actually look like for this great multitude? Well, the vision gives us this beautiful, really detailed picture of what their final reward is. One of the elders in the vision explains that this massive crowd is made up of people who have endured hardship, the great tribulation that believers face in a broken world. And their white robes, they symbolize a purity that they didn't earn themselves. No, they were washed in the blood of the Lamb, which is this powerful metaphor for being redeemed through Jesus. And their reward is just ultimate peace and safety. They are standing right there in God's presence. Every earthly struggle you can imagine, hunger, thirst, those scorching trials symbolized by the sun and heat, it's all over. And the Lamb who was their sacrifice is now their shepherd, personally taking care of them and leading them. And the whole vision builds to this incredibly tender and powerful promise. Every single sorrow, every pain, every reason anyone ever had to cry, it's gone, wiped away by God Himself. It's a picture of complete, total, and final comfort. So, what do we take away from all of this? This ancient vision really paints a full picture of the spiritual journey, from the fight here on earth to the final victory party in heaven. It seems to suggest that even when the world feels like it's in total turmoil, there's a promise of divine protection and a future where every single sorrow is healed.